Right, so let's talk about why we're here today. Over the past few weeks, we've taken quite the journey together, starting with the basics and gradually building up more strategic and transformational uses of data in organizations. You know, this is the fifth in our series of data analytics webinars, and it's been quite a journey. In our very first webinar, which was a beginner's guide to analytics for management, we laid the foundation by introducing the data analytics process, how raw data, when properly collected, cleaned, and analyzed, can become a powerful decision-making tool. We explored popular tools that we all use, such as Excel, Power BI, and Python, and discussed common roadblocks like data silos and resistance to change. That session ended with one strong message. Data analytics only works when you can trust your data. That's why we emphasize the importance of accuracy, consistency, and the need for a clear analytics process. And then in our second webinar, we deepened our conversation with a focus on data governance and ethics. In that webinar, we emphasized that effective data analytics isn't just about tools and techniques, it's also about responsibility. We explored how organizations must manage data quality, ensure privacy, and meet regulatory requirements like the GDPR and the other laws in our East African countries. More than just compliance, good data governance builds trust with our customers, with our partners, and even internally across teams. Without it, even the most sophisticated analytics won't have a solid foundation to stand on. And then in our third webinar, we talked about data management and integration because data by nature is scattered from CRMs, your client relationship management systems, to ERPs, your enterprise resource planning systems, to spreadsheets and cloud applications. Organizations are just swimming in data. The challenge is bringing it all together. We walked through concepts like data warehousing, ETL pipelines, and big data systems, solutions that help organizations consolidate and manage their data in a way that properly supports deeper insights and provides real-time decision making. And then in our last webinar, which was the fourth one of our series, we shifted to the human side of analytics, how to build a data-driven culture. The last session was all about mindset and alignment, how to ensure the data is not just a technical function tucked away in one department, but a strategic asset embraced across the organization. When leadership, operations, marketing, finance, IT, and the other departments all speak the language of data, the entire organization becomes more agile, more innovative, and more equipped to navigate complexity. As Meha mentioned, all of our past webinars, including the first four from data analytics, are all available on our YouTube channel. Simply go to YouTube, type BDO East Africa, and you'll see our YouTube channel. And anybody who's missed those or wants a refresher, just go back, watch those webinars. You can download them. You can share them with your with your people in your companies and your colleagues, and so on and so forth. And that brings us to today, our final webinar in this series. But we will have more webinars in the future. But this series will come to a conclusion. And today's topic is pretty interesting as well. Analytics maturity assessment, advancing your organization's data capabilities. So let me hand over here to my colleague Soumya to take you off, to start you off with this webinar. Soumya.
Thank you, Zahir, for that. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time and joining in for the fifth part of our webinar, where we're talking about analytics maturity assessment. Let's start by trying to understand what exactly analytics maturity is, right? So, at its core, it's about understanding whether your organization stands in where it stands on its analytical journey and what steps are needed to reach the next level or to reach that maturity where you say my organization is analytics ready and we're making the most out of the data that we store. So let's start with the basics because um, in all the other parts too, we've mentioned data is the core for all of this. So the first part is data, which is raw, and that's just the fact and figures that we pull out from all the systems and all the platforms that we have. So on its own, just data itself is not very helpful. That brings us to the second part, which is data analytics. Now, this is where you transform the raw data that you're getting from all your systems. You clean them, you model it, you visualize it, you make it interesting, you put it into different form of graphs, and then you put it out for interpretation. And that brings us to analytics maturity, where you measure how well your organization does this. How well does your organization transform data, visualize data into a readable format, right? So it also helps you analyze whether you're just simply reacting to reports, or are you forecasting trends? Are you automating decisions that are being made by your management? And optimizing the performance, trying to reduce the time that's spent by your employees. All of this comes under analytics maturity. And finally, the analytics maturity model, which is what we're going to speak about in detail today, which is a framework that helps organizations understand the stages of development, starting from basic ad hoc reporting all the way to advanced predictive and prescriptive analysis, which is AI, embedded across business functions. So in today's session, we'll guide you through this model, help you assess your organization's current stage, and also show you how to move towards a more advanced data-driven capabilities for your organization. So we don't aim to get perfection with this webinar, but it's all about progress and to get you all to think on how you can move your organization from where it is right now to being a very mature organization on the analytics front. So by the end of today's session, you'll all walk away with a clear picture of where you are, where you want to be, and how to build the roadmap to reach where you want to go. Right, so let's get started. Moving on to the next slide. So let's try and understand the analytics maturity model. We need to understand this. We have 4 points that we have to really concentrate on. One is why were they created? Second is what is their importance? What are the types of analytics maturity models that you have in the market? And the fourth is we'll probably just give you a sample analytics maturity model that all of you can relate to, which will get you to think and probably design one for yourself, right? So moving on to the next slide, why were they created? Let's take a step back and we imagine a scenario. You're running a business and you've invested in dashboards. You've hired data analytics people, data analysts, and maybe even explored machine learning, the AI tools, and all of that. But you're not sure if you're actually making progress in how you're using your data. That's exactly the kind of confusion that many organizations face, not knowing whether they're making progress or not. So in such a scenario, analytics maturity model would really help. And this is why they were actually created to solve such issues. So they act like a roadmap. Just like a GPS helps you understand where you are and how to reach your destination, maturity models also help organizations identify their current stage in using data and what it will take them to get to the next level. These models were not just built for measurement, they were created to provide clarity and direction. Organizations vary widely in how they collect, store, analyze, and act on data. No two organizations have the same way in how they collect and store data. Everyone has their own way of doing it. So without a framework, that is the analytics model, you might think you're doing great just because you have reports that you're bringing out and just because you have visualizations, but you maybe you're still reacting to problems instead of predicting them. So you only get to solve a problem once you see the problem on your report rather than forecasting it or seeing it beforehand with the other tools that you have. So maturity model in a whole helps you recognize the difference between predictive and reactive measures. And they're also designed to be flexible because not every organization is of the same level. Not every organization is a giant. So depending on which level you're in, how many systems you have, how many employees you have, what are the servers that you can afford, and the analytics model change to the user's need, basically. Speaking about the second one, what is their importance? Why does it matter? Why does our organization need to really go down this route? So imagine when you're trying to, right now, we have organizations that are moving towards data, AI. AI is a really in thing at the moment, and every organization is trying to adopt it. But that's not possible if you don't have your base data, right? I would say it's like trying to scale a mountain, but then you don't know where the summit is. So that's what happens when organizations they pursue data initiatives or AI initiatives without a maturity model. They invest in tools, they invest in talents, which are not cheap, but then they struggle to align the efforts towards meaningful outcomes. So these models are important because they bring structure and alignment for you to reach your goal. And they also help executives, IT teams, analysts, and business units. They help them speak the same language. With a shared framework, you can evaluate how well your organization is managing its data, applying analytics, supporting decision making, and embedding insights into operations. Another key reason why maturity models matter is the resource prioritization. So if you have tight budgets, your teams are stretched, you do not have the proper resources, a maturity model helps you prioritize who you need, what resource you need. Ideally, like don't jump into AI because your data governance is not good. So first concentrate on your data governance, probably get a tool for that, get a resource for that, and then you can go and hire a machine learning expert or an AI expert who is much more expensive, and then procure service for that, which is again much more expensive than just doing your data governance. And so they don't just assess where you are, but they also guide you on what your next step should be. So whether your goal is to improve customer retention, whether you want to optimize supply chains, whether you want to build predictive models for your company, the model helps you visualize a path depending on your goal. And the steps change depending on where you want to reach and where you are, right? The next one, the types of analytics maturity models that you have. Now that you have an idea of what the maturity models are, and you have an understanding that not all maturity models are created equally, which is a good thing. They have different organizations because we have different organizations have different needs, and then there are multiple types of maturity models that suit each of those organizations. We've picked up a few examples. One is a technical model, which focuses more on infrastructure, data quality, tool sets, and analytical methods. So I can give you two examples, TDWI or SAS. They're great if you want to assess your data pipelines, your ETL on how you're extracting, transforming, and loading your data from one system to the other, or your modeling capabilities. The second type of an analytical maturity model is strategic or organizational model, which focuses more on people, leadership, and culture. This is where the decision making comes into play. If that's more important for you, to make sure that every decision that's made is backed up by analytics and backed up by visualizations, then this model would work best for you. And then you also have the hybrid model. Now, this combines both the technical and the strategic elements. The Gartner's model is a good example for this, and it looks at everything from data governance and analytics, use cases to user adoption, and also executive support. So depending on your organization's focus, whether it's building predictive models or shifting culture, you can choose a model that fits best for your context. And here's the thing, it's not about choosing the right model, it's about choosing the most useful one for your current reality and growth ambitions. Having said that, now let's make it more practical and speak about one of the maturity models, right? So the one that I'm showing you is a Gartner's Analytics Maturity Model, which is a mixture of both. It's a mixture of both the technical and the strategic model. So this is actually the most referenced model as it's actually the most referenced model as it breaks down the maturity into 5 stages. One is descriptive. The second is diagnostic. Third is predictive, prescriptive, and cognitive. So descriptive ideally means what happened. Diagnostic means why did it happen. Predictive is what will happen. Prescriptive is what should we do. And cognitive is the system learns and adapts. So you're basically training the system. So now that you have an understanding of this, we'll zoom in on a particular kind, which is the hybrid analytics maturity model. We deliberately chose this model because it brings together the best of two worlds, which is the technical progression and the organization side, right? So on one hand, it considers the technical progression of an organization, which means it'll tell you which tools you're using, how you manage your data, and the other type of analytics that you've adopted. And it will also look at the organizational side, how well the analytics is embedded into your culture, how leadership supports it, and how decisions are actually made at different levels. So in other words, this model just doesn't measure your technical capability, but also measures how you can use or your ability to use analytics meaningfully throughout the organization. So this is really important because in reality, organizations rarely struggle due to lack of tools. They struggle because analytics is not integrated into their daily behavior, leadership decisions, or operational workflows. So a hybrid model helps surface these gaps in a much clearer way, making the organizations more effective. So it also allows us to understand the maturity across multiple dimensions, which is, like I'd mentioned, technology, people, process, and strategy. Not just whether we've installed the latest dashboard or machine learning algorithms, but also making sure that people use whatever has been deployed and decisions are made out of whatever is deployed. Moving on to the next slide, I'm going to be taking you through each one of the stages that you'd seen in the previous slide. The first stage is the early stage of analytics. This is where most organizations naturally begin. So at this point, you know that data exists, but it's raw, it's unstructured, and it's often difficult to access. So this is basically sitting at the back end of your system, but you don't know whether it's clean. You don't know how it lies. You don't know how each system is talking to each other. So basically, it's just an Excel sheet, if I can put it. So reports they're created manually, maybe in Excel, then they're passed around on email, and then you don't have consistent templates. There's a lot of human error because there's no automation. So analytics at this stage is reactive. You're answering questions after these things have already happened. So in the sense that you're answering, why did the sales drop last month? That's something that you see in the next month. How much did you spend last quarter? Again, that's something that you see in the next quarter, not beforehand. So there's no centralized ownership of data in such a model at this stage, right? And then different departments may track different things and then use their own metrics and tools to track these things. And there's very little standardization, and insights are often disconnected from the actual decision making. So culturally, analytics is seen more as the IT desk at this stage, rather than being seen as a strategic advantage. So leaderships, they may not fully understand the potential of data, or worse, they may view analytics as a nice to have rather than a must have. So because even starting small, getting comfortable with collecting data, experimenting with reports lays the groundwork for everything that comes next at this stage. So if you find your organization here today, that's okay. Recognizing it is the first step towards maturing. The second stage is analytics applied in specific functions. So here, the organizations are a little more evolved compared to the stage. And that's when they enter the function-specific analytics stage. So what happens here ideally is certain teams or departments start to take analytics into their own hands. So maybe you have a finance department that's building their own dashboards. You have the marketing that's running the campaigns, do performance reports of the campaigns, or the sales track pipelines using the CRM data that they have. So at the first glance, this looks like a major progress. And in some ways, it is a major progress. But then the team start realizing that they need better visibility and they need to take initiative to create that better visibility. So however, the big issue at this stage is fragmentation. where each function might use different metrics, different tools, and different versions of the truth. Marketing may define conversations in one way, sales defines it in another way, and finance may report revenue differently depending on what system they pull from. So there's no single source of truth yet, and there is nothing that is connecting the dots or connecting the data from all of these different systems that we've spoken about. So ideally, data is siloed. And while local decisions might improve, organizational decisions making still struggles. Culturally, you might see tensions here too. Teams guard their data. They might feel ownership, but not collaboration. The opportunity at this stage is to recognize the need for integration, to make sure that the systems are talking to each other. So organizations should start thinking about standardizing KPIs, centralizing data sources, and building a cross-functional language around the data. So if you're here, it's time to move from individual wins to shared enterprise value. With that, for the rest of the models and to do the assessment, I will hand over to my colleague, Emmanuel, who will take you through the next slide.
So thanks, Soumya, and greetings, everyone. So I'll pick it up from where she left. So we are now at the third stage, which is the desire for advanced analytical capabilities stage. So this is one of the most exciting yet frustrating stages. So I'll tell you why. At this stage, you find that the leadership is quite energized, so they are enthusiastic and excited because of the potential benefits they will get from data. So there's a real hunger for using data strategically. So words like machine learning, predictive analytics, AI, they keep showing up in meetings and in those strategy documents that the leadership use. So at this stage, organizations will see the promise of advanced analytics, but often they struggle with execution. The reality is, wanting sophisticated analytics and being ready for it are two very different things. So there are some challenges that organizations face at this stage. So the first is the data readiness. So here, data may still be of poor quality, so not clean, inconsistent, incomplete. Another area where challenges are experienced is a technological area. So the infrastructure may not be robust enough. So you may want to do some AI development, but you don't have the required infrastructure to be able to do that, the required resources. Another area where organizations may have challenges is the skills and culture area. So the teams may not yet have the data literacy to interpret complex models or trust them over their intuition that they've been used to. So frustrations can build quickly here. So leaders are quite excited, but due to these challenges, they will ask, why aren't we seeing results yet? So the data analysts struggle with bad data, and now the IT, since the required resources are not there, they struggle with system limitations. So the danger at this stage is overarching. You're trying to leap to advanced analytics, but you have not fixed the foundational issues. But there is an opportunity if you invest smartly. So some things you can do at this stage is to strengthen the data governance, to build and clean integrated, to build integrated data platforms. Also, the teams need to be upskilled. They need to become data literate. So they need to understand what are the benefits of these analytics. So organizations that invest wisely in this stage lay a foundation that will pay off exponentially down the road. So we move to the next slide. So the fourth stage is the organizations with established analytics stage. So organizations that push through from the third stage, they move to this stage. So here, analytics is no longer experimental. or maybe confined to few champions within the organizations, but throughout the organization, analytics is applied. So there's a centralized data strategy. Also, data definitions are quite aligned. So teams are more data literate, so they understand the metrics, and a metric, for example, like customer churn rate, they're able to understand it and also trust it, that it means the same everywhere in the organization. So culturally, there's a major shift here. So leaders no longer just see analytics reports just as basic reports that inform them of their business, but these reports rather give them insights that they use in decision making. So operations use the dashboards to monitor daily performance, and also the marketing, they use predictive models, so those AI models, to personalize their marketing campaigns. And also the human resource, they apply analytics to forecast turnover risks. So analytics supports strategic planning and day-to-day execution. So at this stage, it is actually applied in decision making. So some things that you'll notice in such an organization is that there is consistent access to clean data. So data is in a better state, ready for analytics. So it's also used in decision making. So the analytics that is done here, it derives insights that is actually applied in decision making, and the analytics can also be accessed by all the teams. We'll move to the next. So the next stage is that is the fifth stage, and the final stage is the leaders in analytical excellence stage. So this is the highest stage based on this hybrid model that we are looking at. So at this level, organizations don't just use data, they live it and breathe it. So analytics is embedded in all the functions throughout the organizations, in all departments, and in the decision making. So leaders use real-time dashboards on a daily basis. Also, the frontline employees have access to insights that guide their actions. Product teams innovate based on predictive models and customer feedback loops. So at this stage, now it's no longer just enthusiasm for data analytics. It's no longer it's not even experimenting, but machine learning is actually applied for optimization. AI is used to automate decisions, and also in such an organization, data-driven thinking is second to nature. So here, employees are curious about data. They ask better questions. Data governance is strong, and it's seen as empowering everywhere. So this is the ultimate goal, but it's a moving target. Even the best keep evolving because technology and markets never stand still. So next slide. Okay. So now that we've seen the different stages of analytics maturity, a natural question may come up. How do you actually know where your organization stands? So this is where a maturity assessment comes into play. So to measure your organization's level of maturity, we don't just guess based on maybe the reports you have on the dashboards, but there are a series of very objective questions that are issued across key areas, so both technical and organizational, so which help you to assess and know where exactly does my organization stand. So there are four major areas that are assessed to know where you stand. So the first one is the data readiness area. So here, there are some questions that we ask. So one could be, how accessible is your organizational data. So how is it easily accessible by the staff, by everyone in the different departments? Another question could be, is the data quality high? Is it accurate? Is it complete? Yeah. Is the data clean throughout the organization? Another question that we will ask is your data optimized for analysis? That is it structured? Is it well integrated across systems? So if your data is scattered, poor quality, or locked away in accessible silos, so despite whatever best analytics efforts that we put, we'll still struggle because data is the raw material of any data initiative, be it AI modeling, be it a visualization. So if really we cannot get that data that is needed, the whole process will not succeed. So the second area that is considered when assessing your organization's maturity is the organizational dynamics area. So here we ask questions like, one, how does the organization view analytics? So does it view it as just simply reporting, or does the organization actually embed it in strategic planning? Are you just explaining past performance or forecasting future trends? So this area explores the mindset of your organization towards analytics and the strategy. So the more analytics is seen as a strategic tool for competitive advantage, the higher the maturity level. So the third area that we consider is the analytics team's dynamics. So this area is all about how analytics is adopted across teams and departments throughout the organization. Again, there are some questions we ask here. So one is which teams are using analytics in decision making today? So the managerial level, whether the top leadership and even the operational teams. So as some departments highly data driven while others barely use it. So maybe in your organization, is it a particular team only that are data driven? So maybe the operations and maybe others are not data driven, maybe finance. So is there a shared understanding of metrics across teams? So maturity here grows when every part of the organization, so all departments, HR, finance, sales, are leveraging analytics appropriately in the decision making. So the fourth and final area that we consider is the usage and technology dynamics. So here, as the title goes, technology, it's all about your platforms, the systems that are in place that you use in your business. So here we ask questions like, one, what platforms and tools are you using? So tools for your finance, for your accounting, for your operations, your practice management. So this area, it looks at the technical backbone of your organization, the infrastructure that you have, because analytics requires some infrastructure, some resources, computing. It requires some technology resources. So by assessing this area, you'll be able to know how the analytics capabilities that you'll be able to develop. So yes, moving to the next slide. Okay, so now after being introduced to this hybrid maturity model and after me showing you the different areas that we consider when assessing organizations' maturity, now we are going to conduct just a quick live self-assessment. So I'd like all of you to note down your answers to some questions that I'm going to ask. You can note them down just somewhere, a notebook, a phone, a blank document, just whatever is easily accessible. So I'll ask you just four, not many, simple questions, one for each area that I've just mentioned. So one for the data readiness area, the second question for the organizational dynamics area, the third one for the analytics team dynamics area, and the final question will be on the usage and the technology dynamics area. So for each question, you'll pick the option that best describes the organization as at now, where you stand. So please write down the option for the question, the choice that you choose. That will be either A, B, C, or D for each question. So at the end, based on the combination of your answers, we'll identify your approximate analytics maturity stage. So please don't overthink your answers. Choose what feels more true for your current reality. So let's begin. I'll read them out. But I believe we can see them. I'll just read them out. You can answer. So the first question will be on the data readiness area. So how will you describe your organization's data accessibility and quality? So choice A, data is scattered, incomplete, or hard to access. Choice B, some clean, usable data exists, but it's isolated. Choice C, data is integrated, clean, and consistently available across teams. And choice D, real-time, high-quality data is the norm across the business. So you'll just note down somewhere the reality of the organization. So the second question will be on the organizational dynamics stage, as you can see there. So how does your organization typically use analytics? So choice A, mainly descriptive, reporting what happened after the fact. Choice B, some diagnostic, so that is understanding why things happened. Choice C, predictive models and forecasts are actively used, that is AI. And choice D, prescriptive or cognitive analytics is influencing real-time decisions. Again, you'll make the choice. So the third question will be on the analytics team dynamics. So how widespread is analytics usage across departments? So choice A, analytics is limited to a few teams or functions. Choice B, several departments use analytics, but it's not consistent. Choice C, most departments use standardized analytics in their work. And choice D, analytics is embedded enterprise-wide in all departments and workflows. You'll choose. And finally, the fourth question will be based on the usage and technology dynamics area. So which best describes your organization's technology environment for analytics? So choice A, standalone spreadsheets or disconnected tools are used. So those are the Excels and the Google Sheets. Choice B, basic BI platforms used in pockets. Choice C, enterprise-wide integrated analytics platforms and data warehouses are used. And choice D, advanced architecture supporting AI, real-time analytics, and automated governance. So you can answer that. I'll give you 1 to 2 minutes to just answer, and then we'll assess where you stand. So as you as you finish up, you can type the options that you have for each question based on where your organization stands. Yeah. So once you're through with this, I will give a simple assessment of where you stand. Okay, I believe we're all done answering the 4 questions. So now we'll do a quick assessment of your scoring. So now that you've selected your answers, let's talk about how to interpret them. So the scoring is not about right or wrong answers, yeah? So it's just about identifying where your organization stands, so that you can get to improve and reap of the benefits of getting better in your analytics development. So here is how it works. So if you mostly selected A's, uh, you're likely in the early stage of analytics. So you're just beginning your data journey. So you have access to data, but it may be scattered, inconsistent, or not actively driving decision making yet. So if your answers are a mix of A's and B's, you're in the function-specific analytics stage. So some departments have embraced analytics, but it's still siloed and not integrated across the business. So maybe a particular department, maybe like finance, is using has adopted analytics, but others have not. Also, if you have mostly Bs with 1 or 2 Cs, so you're likely in the aspirational phase. So you recognize the value of analytics. You have active projects underway, but still there are gaps in your data readiness, also your technology. You may lack the required infrastructure to be able to implement some of these projects. Also, the organizational culture, maybe there is still more work needed to be done with regards to data literacy in your organization. So another assessment, if you mostly selected C's, yeah, so congratulations. It means analytics is widely adopted in your organization. So it's supported by leadership. So it's also consistent, and it's just not about reporting. So for this organization, you're likely you're actually using analytics to drive your decision making and also strategy decisions. So finally, if you mostly selected these, so you're operating at a analytical excellence, which not so many organizations are at this level, which is the highest. So analytics is embedded enterprise-wide. So real-time data is available, and predictive models influence day-to-day operations, and you're likely seen as an industry leader in using data strategically. So just some tips. Remember, some people might feel they are between 2 stages. I know maybe that's what even you may have felt like while answering those questions. So it's perfectly normal. So it's not a rigid box, yeah. So it's a spectrum. So you might be highly mature in one area, so like technology, but still there's an area that you need more growth, like culture, um, team dynamics. So the goal of this assessment is just it's not to judge where you are and it ends there, but it's to understand your starting point, so you can map out the most impactful next steps. So we move to the next slide. So we'll now look at the roadmap for analytics growth. So what things or what strategies can you put in place to move from basic analytics all the way to more advanced analytics practices? So the first thing that you can do is to identify a business problem that can deliver an early success. So really, since analytics will be a new thing, maybe a new thing, yeah, and even to convince people to be on board, to also convince top management, it's important that even as an organization, for you to identify like a problem, a key area uh, where where there is need for analytics, where there is need for improvement, and from that problem, you are able now to decide which analytics do I need here. Is it just visualizations? Maybe could it be AI modeling, predictive modeling? So maybe an example, maybe in marketing, you could have all these large amounts of social media data in your organization, and clearly you need to understand what are the markets saying about us, about the organization in social media. So that is the objective, that is the problem that you want to solve. And now an analytics area that you can choose, maybe that is predictive modeling, so AI. So you apply AI to that social media data to be able now to uh, know what are the customers saying. So this is a clear area, this is a clear problem that you're able to to look into, and it will help to advance. So a second thing that you can do, so you need to identify key organization stakeholders that need to be convinced of the benefits of advanced analytics. So in the organization, there are those stakeholders. It could be the CEO, it could be the CTO, it could be even the IT manager, who once he's informed, once he's elaborated to like the benefits that analytics will offer the organizations, the problems that it will solve, the efficiencies that will get, you are likely to succeed in your push for like analytics usage in your organization, or even moving from just merely descriptive analytics to more like predictive. So moving just from reporting your revenues to even forecasting. Yeah. So the third area, it's advised to use outsourcing and buy packaged applications when you lack advanced analytics expertise. So you may want to start having basic reporting, like even dashboarding, they may not be there, or even you could already have that and want to move to things like even making predictions, AI models, but you don't have the teams, the staff who can do that. So you can outsource, and this is where organizations like ourselves come into place, where we have the required manpower, the resources, the methodologies to be able to assist you. Maybe if those are the dashboarding you need, or even the AI development. And also packaged applications are important. So these are applications that perform specific functions. So you don't have to develop your own analytics system to analyze your data. They already packaged applications like Power BI that are there that can be used to, just to give an example, to build your analytics. So the fourth area is you need to build data literacy in the organization. So to build data literacy, you need to focus on descriptive analytics and key performance indicators. So maybe it's the first time you're introducing analytics to your organization. They've never heard of it at all. So descriptive analytics, actually, from my research, it shows that it covers even up to 80% of analytics in an organization. So you can start with that, just showing what, from the historical data, where the business stands, showing that to the different teams, to even management, and they'll be able to understand now, how is this data important? How is it helping us? Something as simple as seeing where our revenues stand now and where at the same time last year we were. The fifth area, it's important to keep up with relevant technological improvements. So especially those that are relevant to your organization. So changes in existing tools, emergence of better performing tools, basically advances in technology. So as technology advances also, it impacts mainly positively data analytics. So in the past, before like emergence of the cloud, we had to purchase all the resources we need. So that upfront cost, we had to incur it. Organizations had to, but now because we have the cloud, yeah, you can just provision resources, computing power, and AI models through that, and it's much more affordable. So as technology keeps improving, keeping up with that will also assist your organization to advance. And last but not least, it's important to integrate compliance and governance in your organization. So right from the start, so building trusted ethical analytics practices strengthens both your brand and your resilience. So if at any point you realize you need help, whether it's defining your roadmap, choosing the right technology, or scaling your capabilities, so BDO is here to support you. That's why we are here. We work with organizations at every stage of the analytics journey, whether you're in the first or you're in between there. So if you'd like an in-depth maturity analysis, a custom roadmap, or help getting your analytics program off the ground, please feel free to reach out to us after the session. We'd be excited to partner with you. And with that, this brings us to the end of an exciting 5-part webinar series. Yeah. So over the past couple of weeks and months, so we've explored the basics of the analytics process, data governance and ethics. We've looked at data management and integration. We have talked about building a data-driven culture, so that which supports data analytics in the organization. And today, which was the final webinar in this series, we have learned on conducting an analytics maturity assessment and building a future roadmap. So we hope you found this series insightful, practical, and inspiring as you advance your organization's data capabilities. So with that, we are now officially open to questions. So feel free to ask anything about today's session, the maturity model, or anything from the series overall. Thank you once again for being such an engaged and thoughtful audience throughout this journey. Yeah.
So I do see we have a couple of questions. The first one is, how do you currently ensure that the data used across departments is timely, accurate, and standardized? That's where we talk about processes. That's where we talk about data governance. That's where we talk about master data management and automated ETL processes. And it's not only about how the data lies in the database, but also making sure that the data you're putting into the system is clean, which calls in for better systems, better system validation when you're inputting the data, having data champions across your departments, and making sure that the data gets in clean to the database. And once it does, then you have daily processes to make sure that it's that the new data is clean. You have your reports coming out accurately, and all. I hope that answers your question. And then we have another one where we're asked, how can organizations balance maturity across different areas? That's technology versus culture. Which one is more advanced than the other? I would say it goes hand in hand. I don't think so there's anyone that's more mature than the other in terms of technology and culture. Because if you have the technology but do not have the culture to adopt it, then there's no point of having the technology. And if you have the culture but do not have the technology, then you're not moving forward really. So to balance it, it's the first thing is to make sure it's driven top down, that the leadership does adopt it, and then they move it on to the employees in the organization, and making sure that the language that they speak or whatever is spoken in the organization is backed up by data, backed up by analytics or visualizations, which will automatically drive in the culture of data analytics and visualization. Again, there is another question: what are the emerging technologies do you see having the biggest impact on data analytics in the next 2 to 3 years? If I'm not wrong, you're asking what are the biggest emerging technologies that will come in the next 2 to 3 years. I would say we have the AI ML, the generative AI and machine learning. We also have augmented analytics, which is you can enhance your decision making with dashboards and augment them based on the previous data that you have. I hope that answers. We're open for more questions in case there are any other questions. There's also a feedback survey that's come onto your screen. Would request all of you to fill in the survey and submit it. While this is being done, we're also open to suggestions on what you'd like, what's your topic of interest for the next series that we have for the webinars. We're open to any suggestion. You can put that down in the comment box. There's a question, how is deep learning related to analytics? Deep learning is a part of analytics. It's a subset, basically, of machine learning and artificial intelligence. And it plays a powerful role in advanced analytics. That's the fourth stage that we were talking about all along in the webinar. And again, you use data, you use patterns, you use trends and insights to be able to derive a deep learning model. There's one more question that says, for organizations lacking in-house expertise, what criteria should they use when deciding between outsourcing versus buying packaged solutions? It depends on what your requirement is, and it depends on your infrastructure, it depends on your data, it depends on the resources that you have. It's always much cheaper when you're starting off to outsource it, that rather than hiring people, getting the licenses, getting the servers. That becomes much more expensive, and then you're not sure whether it will work out well or not. So I would say when you're just starting off and when you're not sure on how to do it or how to go about it, it's always better to outsource it rather than just buying package solutions. And then there's another question. For companies in early stage of analytics, what's the most critical first step to move towards functional or aspirational maturity? I think the first step is wanting to do something in data analytics. Just analyzing your data, trying to just bring out graphs is the first step. And then that builds up the pipeline of now wanting your different systems to talk to each other, and then making your data clean, doing an ETL and bringing out visualizations out of it. The first step is, or the most critical is pushing people to want such type of analytics and integrating it into your businesses as well. I think so that's it. I hope all of you have filled out the survey, and this calls to the end of the webinar. Thank you so much for attending. Hope to see you in the next series.